Good morning, guys. So last couple days we've talked about graphing using slope-intercept form. So today what we're going to do is we're going to take it a little further and we're going to say, well, what happens if our equation is not in slope-intercept form, right? So our goal, of course, if that's the case, is going to be what can we do to put it into slope-intercept form, which means we want the equation to always be in the form y equals, right? We always want to solve for y. So this one should be pretty easy, right? So how am I going to solve this for y? I'm going to add negative x on both sides. Now we should write this as y equals negative x plus 6. Right? If you want to write it as 6 minus x, that's fine. You may mistake the slope and the y-intercept that way. My y-intercept is 6. My slope is negative 1. What does it mean for a line to have a slope of negative 1? It means my rise over run is negative 1 over 1. It also means, of course, that we start at 6 on the y-axis. So to rise negative 1 means to go down, and to run 1 means to go to the right 1. So that's our slope of negative 1. We'll connect our points with our ruler. We'll use arrows. And really, it's best to label the original equation, right? Would it be terrible to label y equals negative x plus 6? Not really. But this is the equation that we were asked to graph, so that really is the way that we should be labeling it. All right, this one I think should be just as easy. So I'm going to add 5 on both sides. That's going to give me y equals negative 1/4 x plus 5. All right, and then the graphing is going to follow, guys. We've done enough of these at this point, right? And then, you know, I'm making these videos a little bit shorter because honestly we should be at the meets and doing them live and going into more depth. But we've done 2 days of this, right? The point of today's lesson isn't so much the graphing. We've done 2 days graphing. It's how can I solve for y? That way I can obtain my slope, which is negative 1/4, and my y-intercept, which is 5. All right, how about this one, right? So my coefficient of y is negative 2. So I'm going to divide both sides by negative 2. So what happens now? Well, 4x divided by negative 2 is negative 2x. Negative 8 divided by negative 2 is positive 4, and that's going to allow me to take my y-intercept, and it's going to allow me to get my slope, and then we can graph like we've done for the past couple days. All right, this one is similar, but there's 2 things we have to do, right? My y term is not isolated, so I need to isolate my y term first. I need to add negative 10x on both sides. And what that's going to give me is 2y is equal to negative 10x plus 2. Now I'm going to divide everything on both sides by 2. That's going to give me y equals negative 5x plus 1. Now we know what our y-intercept is. Now we know what our slope is. Now we should have no problem graphing this line. All right, how about this one? Well, it's not that different than the last one, except for the fact that we're going to end up with a fraction. And we talked about this a lot, and it was all kind of leading up to this. So I've got negative 5x plus 6. What's next? Divide by 2. Well, 2y divided by 2 is y. What happens next? Well, negative 5x divided by 2 is negative 5/2 x. So remember, guys, and 6 divided by 2 is 3. If it is not evenly divisible, right? If the coefficient of x is not divisible by what we're dividing by, you leave it as a fraction, right? In this case, that's negative 5/2. So my y-intercept would be 3, and my slope would be negative 5/2. All right, this one always gives people problems because of the signs. All right, so what are we going to do? Well, it's only one step. We're going to divide by negative 4. All right, so what's one way we can write this? Well, if I'm doing negative 5x divided by negative 4, technically I could express it like this. All right, and if you do express it like that, and if you graph it like that, it will be fine. It won't be wrong. But I've never seen anyone really, leave a fraction as negative divided by negative. So really what happens is when we're doing this part of it, negative 5 divided by negative 4, since we're dividing 2 negatives, the quotient is positive. So really the way it should be written is like this. Right? Again, if you did it the way I have it in green and you graph it, that's perfectly fine. It's not going to be wrong. But the equation itself, you're just kind of writing in a sort of in a silly way. Okay, because again, if you're dividing any 2 expressions with the same sign, the quotient will be positive. All right, this is one we don't see too much, but it's hard, right? So what am I going to do if I want y? Well, if I have a fractional coefficient, we're taught to multiply by the reciprocal, or in this case, the negative reciprocal. So what's going to happen? Well, negative half y times negative 2 is y. And negative 2 times negative x plus 3, when I distribute, is going to give me 2x minus 6. Turns out to be pretty easy then, right? This is negative 2, and the slope is, negative 6, and the slope is 2. All right, I don't think we have to look at that. So there it is, guys. There's your homework. All right, it says find the slope and y-intercept and then graph. So I'm okay with you making one big graph as long as it's very neat and I can see everything labeled appropriately. If you prefer to make 5 small graphs and kind of do them in a sort of quick way, that's fine also, but it might be better to do one big one. But make sure you're showing me the work. I need to see exactly how you solved for y. So for number 1, there's 1 step. Number 2, number 3, number 4, there's 1 step. And number 5, there's 2 steps, right? We need to move the x term. We need to divide by 6. Questions, comments, concerns, we talk about it on Google Classroom after you upload your work.